Hello, everybody, and I got a special guest, my good friend here, Marty Younce, with me. And today, I'm going to actually interview him. He has a remarkable health and healing story, and just had to share it with you guys because I think a lot of you guys are going to learn a lot, and especially we've got Father's Day coming up, right, Marty?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
this couldn't be a better topic because Marty was actually 58 years old. I was reading through your story just so I got everything right. Marty's actually been he's a patient at my clinic, Exodus Health Center in Kennesaw, Georgia. And so I want to make sure I got his story right. But he was 58 years old, felt good, didn't realize, had all the right numbers. And I'm going to let you kind of go into that in detail. He had a checkup with his general physician and his primary care, and everything was good. Blood pressure was good. So he was told, you've got a clean bill of health, and at 58 years old had a massive heart attack. And since then realized, the mainstream medical model is not going to teach him how to get well. And he had to learn on his own. And so he went out, sought out experts, has done a lot of research on his own, and worked with my clinic as well as just really just learning as much as he could on his own, and has been able to regain his health. And so really excited about this topic, and we're going to jump into this in detail. But if you're just coming on, let us know who you are and where you're coming from. And also, Marty and I will be answering questions as we go on, things that he's done to improve his health. We're going to really dive into cardiovascular health and just overall full body health. So if you do have questions, you can go ahead and ask them, and we'll try to get to as many of those as possible. I see that we've got Kate on here. She goes, "Hi, Dr. Jackers. I am engaged." Eep, I'm so happy. Hey, congratulations, Kate. That's so great to hear. Thanks for letting us know here. So that's awesome. We got Rich on coming in from Knoxville. I know Rich and his wife. And so thanks for being on there, Rich. And so again, if you're coming on, let us know where you're coming in from. And again, we're going to be answering as many questions as we can get to. So Marty, without further ado, why don't you start by sharing your story and how you got into health coaching. Now you're actually helping people with their health. And so let us know what happened and tell us your story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was 58 years old. 2 months before my massive heart attack, I got a clean bill of health. And I was a little overweight, but my blood pressure was 120 over 80, pulse 68. My numbers, when it comes to numbers, my cholesterol total was only 225. Right. So it's, change your diet a little bit, but all in all, you're a great guy. Your heart sounds fantastic, like an ox. So life was good. Okay. They never drank, never smoked. And then lo and behold, one day I'm getting ready to take the wife out to breakfast, and I'm walking down my stairs and I get this pain in my shoulder, and I go, wow, I must have slept on my left shoulder wrong. And I went, let me get an ice pack and, numb it out. Next thing I know, typical heart attack symptoms, right? Pain in left shoulder. Then it went to compression of the chest, middle back, right shoulder. And it was game on within seconds, literally seconds. So I chewed an aspirin, and I did research in Cobb County at the time. And I said, well, I know the ambulance takes about 5 to 6 minutes on average to get anywhere. Well, I've got an urgent care clinic 3 minutes away. Let me go to urgent care. So I had the wife drive me to urgent care. And so we got there. I walked in and went, I'm having a massive heart attack. And they put me on the gurney and gave me 2 nitros. And then came the ambulance. First, let me share, dial 911 and don't drive yourself to an urgent care, because an urgent care center truly doesn't deal with that. So little did I know, but I've never been sick a day in my life. Can count the times I've been to the doctor. But so anyway, so the day of my heart attack, I'm in the ambulance. I get into it's like you've seen on TV, right? I'm in the ambulance. The sirens are going. They got the paddles ready. He's getting ready to go under. All that drama that's going on. They wheel me into the ER, and luckily, knock on wood, there was a guy who just came out of cath lab seconds before I rolled in. So if that never happened, it would have took about 15 minutes for everyone to get there. So I'm fortunate that someone was there at my time. So they rolled me in to the cath lab, and the next thing I know, I flatlined 3 times. And each of those times, I seen the other side, and I had a conversation with the other side. So I'll get into symptoms, and so I don't want anyone to take, especially guys, we got egos, right? And with egos comes, oh, that's just a little soreness in the arm, or oh, my back hurts. Even gout is a sign of heart disease if you didn't know it. So there may be little signs throughout your life that you get, and you just don't realize it. So for the guys out there, just pay attention to what your body's telling you, right? The day before this happened, my heart attack, I clay barred my car. I don't know if anyone's ever clay barred their car before, right? But that's a little gray bar that you go every inch of your car. It's about a 4-hour job to do a good job. And then you turn around and wax it. And I did that. And I came in the house. I walked up the stairs. And as I was walking upstairs, I was out of breath. So I went, oh, okay, I get it. I'm fat. I'm getting old. I'm out of shape. All the typical reasons. But however, that was my body giving me a sign that, hey, something's going on. If I would have caught that sign then and knew it, I would have never had a massive heart attack and flatline, because as soon as you flatline, your heart muscle dies. As soon as it loses blood, it's game over. Dude, that muscle just dies. So I was fortunate. So anyway, the next day, I'm in the ER, and I explained this experience like so. So envision a 100-yard football field, and you're at the far end of one of the field, and on the other end of the field, you see a bright white light, the brightest, beautiful light that you will ever see. I can't explain it. It's warm, it's loving, it's inviting. So I'm having this conversation with this omnipresence of whatever, and I'm saying, wow, is this what I think it is? Am I Carlson over? And I'm having this conversation, and I'm saying, well, I'm not ready to go yet. It's not my time, and I'm pleading my case. And so I keep pleading, and I come back, boom. And as I come back, I hear the doctors doing their thing and the people talking, and everything's going well. And then I don't know how much longer. Then I go under again for the second time. I flatline, and now I'm on the 50-yard line. So I'm closer into getting to this white light. And I say the same thing. I go, wow, I thought we had this conversation. And I go over the same thing, plead my case. I come back again. All right. Okay, boy, hear everything. Life's good, right? I'm back at it. Now I go under for the third time. And now this time I'm in the end zone, getting ready to walk into the white light. And now I'm kind of wigging out a little bit, because to me, it's no return now. So I'm really pleading my case. And I come back, knock on wood. Now, I will say it's beautiful. It's wonderful. So don't fear death. I mean, if I didn't have a family to come home to or anything else, I'd say game on, take me, because it was that wonderful and that relieving, right? So I wasn't in pain. I wasn't in any stress. It was just this beautiful feeling, euphoria I can't tell you about, right? But I'm a no bull kind of guy. So I'm telling you, as I saw it. So I come back, and while in my conversations, I was saying, please let me come back. I've been in Gulf War, Afghanistan, Bosnia. I've seen a lot of death in my day. I said, please let me come back and share my story, and I'll help those who I can. So anyway, I come back the third time. And the third time I was if you have never been shocked, and hopefully you never do, they were at 360 joules. So that's the last setting that they're going to give you the zap of life back, right? So I was on the last setting, came back, and my cardiologist said, you're a miracle. And I got out and I had my little belly and stuff. He goes, well, you need to lose this. You need to do that. And I said, okay. So we get back, and really I had about a 10 to 15% ejection fraction at that time. For those who may not know what ejection fraction is, that's how healthy your heart is in a way. So most people walking around with a 50, to 60% on average. Maybe the Lance Armstrongs are at 70%, but you won't get above 7 because you got vessels and stuff in your heart. So they gave me a real low prognosis. Even if I got down, I was on ICU obviously for about 5 days. So they put this vest on me when I came home. And that's one of my first experiences at home, because when you're going through that, it's supposed to shock you and bring you back if you go in cardiac arrest. So my first day, I just shared this story because I came home, my first day home with the vest, this thing goes off. It's like an ambulance. Stand back. I'm getting ready to shock. So anyway, that went off and I laid on the ground. Right. And I said, okay, this thing must be sensing my heart's going in arrhythmia. And I guess I'm going to let it shock me. So I almost let it do it. And I said, well, I'm still breathing. Guess what? I ain't letting this thing shock me. So I pulled the battery out. And then I went and read the manual. It's so thick, right? So I said, that's the thing to do. So let's fast forward. I'm in ICU. I'm going through recovery. They're talking about possibly in 90 days, if my ejection fraction doesn't get above 30%, 35%, they're going to put either an ICD in, a defibrillator, and more like a pacemaker as well, just to be on the safe side. And if that works, good. If not, so I really didn't want that to go because that's not a natural thing in the body.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'm out of the hospital. 90 days goes by, and I started walking through proper diet, nutrition. Within 90 days, I lost 54 pounds through proper diet, nutrition, and exercise. I also got my ejection fraction to about 55% in 90 days. So I was in cardio rehab. That's a 90-day program initially. I was only in there in 30, and out in 30, I graduated to phase 3. And as I would go through there, and the people who were there, and I was the youngest guy in there at the time at cardio rehab, the youngest guy there, and I was wearing the vest, right? Oh. So here I am, the youngest guy in there wearing the vest with a bum ticker going on, and these older guys are in there working out, and somebody goes, well, I've had 5 stents put in, and they're all proud that they've survived these. And I said, man, it only take one for me to change my life around, right? So once this happened, I read 17 books from all the top cardiologists in the world. And then I read 3 medical books, like I was going to go to Johns Hopkins University and become a cardiologist. And then after that, I read all these research papers on how, because when this all happened, guys, I had a 50% blockage on the right, a 99%, which did me, 100%, which did me in, and a 99%. Wow. Well, they won't put a stent in unless you're over 70%. And they didn't want to put another stent there because I was so bad with the one. So they just wanted to keep me alive. So I got a stent in the one. It was at 100%, right?
So how many arteries? Was that 3 arteries that were, 50%, 90%?
Yeah. One artery, the right was 50, and the 2 left. One was at 100, one was at 99.
Okay.
Now, the beauty of the heart, for those who don't know, your body will do what I'll call like a 285 bypass, like it'll if it knows your main highway is getting bad, it automatically goes, well, let's go around it, right? So my 285 bypass.
Yes. So by the way, Marty, can you move your computer just a little bit so you're a little bit? Yeah, there you go.
Better? Okay.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Yeah.
I wish I would have done it earlier. But so anyway, so now that 285 bypass has got the 99% blockage, right? So now they're really concerned with the main highway, right? So that's where they put the stent in. So anyway, after I read all these books, and I read all these research papers, and my cardiologist is strictly hard right. She's all about meds and X, Y, and Z, right? And so I get it, and now I believe there's a place for meds. There's a place for meds, but I think you can do things naturally. So after all these research papers, I started to read about chiropractic for one. That's holistic type stuff, right? And how to naturally remove plaque if you have it, and how to prevent it in the first place, right? So let's be proactive. So I'm a living source here. Today, I am plaque free. I have no plaque anywhere. And how do I do that? I did that with extra virgin olive oil, cold pressed, with a polyphenol count above 325, right? So guys and gals out there listening, You do this, I'm giving you the secret formula here to removing plaque. So the 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil every day, I mix that with low sodium V8 juice, right? And then 2 ounces of pomegranate juice every day. Those are known factors that will help start dissolving the plaque little by little. And first thing you know, there's some other herbs as well that we can get into if you guys got questions that'll help you do this too. Karuta, hawthorn, CoQ10. There's a lot omega-3s we can get into as well. But the main thing I just want you to guys really to realize, trans fats and saturated fats, they're a no-no, man. You know, they're really big. I mean, as long as you have the right fats, olive oil, all the good fats, right? But those trans and saturated, listen, man, and numbers don't lie. For those who aren't getting blood work, please go out and get blood work because numbers don't lie. And also, if you do that blood work, there are 2 tests that doctors won't normally tell you about, and that's CRP, C-reactive protein test, and what we call a plaque test. And those 2 tests, in conjunction with your regular metabolic panels and lipid panels and all that, those 2 markers are all about inflammation. And if any of those, you request those 2 tests, and that's going to be a precursor if you have any plaque, because if you have any type of inflammation in your arteries, it only means one thing, right? It means you got plaque built up. So you got soft plaque and you've got hard plaque. So you got to be aware of that. And sodium bonds to the cholesterol. Everyone has cholesterol. 75% of cholesterol produced naturally in your own body. So if your artery ever tears, you never know about it, but that's nature's way of putting a Band-Aid on that fix within your artery. So that cholesterol in your body goes to that torn artery and covers them. Goes, boy, we stop that from rupturing. Good on us. But then all of a sudden you're eating this high sodium diet, right? And you got bad LDL. So all that starts to bond to that cholesterol, and that's where you start forming hard plaque and calcified plaque. So I want you to know through diet, exercise, and proper nutrition, you can reverse plaque and you can prevent it off the end. And then be going to, like Dr. Jocker's, my heart chakra, I'll call my heart chakra, right, was way out in left field when we did our test. Remember our test we did? It was
heart rate variability.
Right? So by taking care with him as well, that is now all in line. It's almost like a bullseye in my heart. If you would have seen it initially, you would have go, geez, I'm a lot. Wow. But now everything's in alignment. Cholesterol, LDL. So that's it in a nutshell without me getting too long-winded. But we'd be glad to take any questions you may have and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. And I had a few questions for you too as I interview you here. But man, it's such an amazing story. And so the initial, obviously the big massive heart attack was at 58. How old are you now?
I'm 62 now.
62. So basically, what, 3.5, 4 years removed overall?
Yeah, overall, right. Yeah. I mean, and it was a process. You know, you're always checking your numbers and you're always getting there. But yeah, so knock on wood, I pray every day. I'm so thankful to be here and share the story. I think if those who go to date, I've shared this, changed 37 people's lives. I actually have saved 37 other people's lives. There was a guy who I used to work out with. I'll share this with you real quick. So I was doing CrossFit for a while. Yeah. And my cardiologist told me to stop it, but I didn't know that at the minute. So I was doing CrossFit.
CrossFit's a little high impact for somebody that's had, the history that you have. Yeah.
Right. So, but my trainer, Sean, he's ripped. He's got a 6-pack. This guy should be in a fitness magazine. So I'm talking to him and I say, hey, Sean, I know, man, you are a buff dude. You are looking good. But do me a favor. Just get your blood work, dude, please. Because you may look great on the outside. Doesn't mean you're great on the inside, right? So he does. He comes back. His triglycerides were 4,000.
Oh, my gosh.
Right? Exactly. And I went, whoa, let's talk about diet. So we start getting into diet a little bit. And they had him on metformin, I think, which is to bring his triglycerides down, right?
So he was a trainer and he was on metformin and ripped. So did he have a history of high triglycerides?
No. Well, he never checked himself. He never did blood work. Right? That's what I'm saying. Okay. Know your numbers because numbers don't lie, right? So everyone takes something as simple as doing a simple $49 blood test on average. and never getting it done. So he was one of those guys. He's a young guy. He figured I'm, okay. So he gets that. So we talk about diet. And the first thing he tells me about, he goes, I eat a lot of seafood. I said, well, that's cool. So tell me your seafood. He goes, well, I eat shrimp 2 and 3 times a week. I eat lobster 2 and 3 times a week. And I said, hold on, time out. That's your problem, because shellfish are high in cholesterol, right? So he started changing his diet, and guess what today? His off his meds, his triglycerides are like 110, right? So it's all in the diet. And, obviously he did all the exercise. I mean, look at Bob Harper, right? The guy on The Biggest Loser, right? He's a workout fanatic, heart attack guys, right? So you got genetic markers, family history, do you smoke, your diet, all those things. If you got a belly, that's visceral fat, guys, and it comes from triglycerides, basically, and that's sugar and carbs, right? So it's just little markers that you'll know. And I want everyone to survive. Usually, it's one and done on a heart attack. It's usually my dad died of a heart attack, one and done. My mom at 67 died of a heart attack, one and done. So I even had a genetic marker of my parents that I took that for granted. I said, I don't drink or smoke or any of that kind of stuff. But again, so if you got a family history, strike 1. If you got poor diet, strike 2. If you're not exercising, strike 3.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of time.
And
right?
if you're stressed out, right? So all these
absolutely,
factors,
all those factors come in. So I am just so grateful that I'm here today still, and that you allowed this. I'm excited if I can change anybody's life and come from the, even my cardiologist, she's a believer now.
She's got to be seeing you, right? Absolutely.
So, now I go to cardio rehabs and I talk about diet, exercise, all that now, right?
So good. And Marty, I really wanted to have you on because, we got Father's Day coming up, and, heart disease just, it's high in men and women. Obviously, it's number one killer in America. But like you were talking about with men typically ignore their health symptoms that come along the way. And, like you were saying, gout is a symptom. So if you have gout, it's a sign of a metabolic problem. There's certainly a genetic component to it, but it's really a metabolic problem that's taking place. And so that's a warning sign. If you're overweight, like you were talking about, okay, especially that belly fat, that abdominal fat, that's a huge warning sign. So if you're out there and you're listening and men that do have a belly, okay, you should be able to look down, straight down, standing straight up, and be able to see really your feet and your ankles. And if you can't, then that's a sign that you're developing metabolic disease. You shouldn't have that abdominal obesity or that abdominal weight, that extra abdominal fat. So that's huge. You also have things like, and I know you put this in your, and I talk about this all the time, and you put it in your story, if you're snoring at night, like really loud snoring, okay, or have sleep apnea, which is actually very underdiagnosed. Okay, a lot of people have sleep apnea. They don't know it. If you're not getting very restful sleep, you should be checked for sleep apnea. You may be snoring. There are natural things you could do to help improve that, including changing your sleep posture, things like that. But these are all signs. So if you're out there and perhaps you're the spouse of, your spouse is snoring at night, definitely share this video with them. There's things that you can do in order to help with that. But these are all warning signs. And so let's see who is out there on with us. Okay, Connie says, can we share this in closed groups we run? Sure, Connie. Definitely share this interview. We're doing this on Facebook because we just want to get this message out. We got Father's Day coming up, and there are many men, unfortunately, that are building heart disease and they don't even know about it. And women, of course, right? Of course, we're talking about heart disease right here. And so let's see, Jim. Okay, let's see. Lorene says, we are thankful you're here too. Great to have you on. We got a lot of people on today, which is awesome. Let's see, Jim right here. This is a good one right here. He says, I started keto diet with intermittent fasting April 10, 2018. I'm off both water pills and my high blood pressure medication. I've lost 26.5 pounds since April 10th. So that's like 2 months. And I'd lost 237 pounds. Okay, so I think he's down to that. So I take one a day at a time, one step at a time. Hey, fantastic, Jim. Great job, my friend. That's
Yeah,
great. Sounds like you're on the right track, right, Marty?
yeah, absolutely. That's the best way to do it. And
Yep.
that's, I think, yeah, I lost 54 pounds. Another thing I want to share with some of the guys
Yeah.
too while we're on is don't take, if you get tingling in your arms, you get blurry vision, you get numbness. These are all little signs that are telling you something's going on. And especially for the women out there who may be listening and the guys too, monitor your blood pressure because high blood pressure is what we call a silent killer.
Yeah.
My wife, I wasn't into this. My wife, Diana, works out every day, drinks her green stuff every day, right? She's a true health nut if you want to ever see a true health nut. And so when I start researching this, Diana's blood pressure was 200 over 110.
Oh, wow.
And wow is right,
Yeah.
right? So she felt normal. To her, that was normal, but actually it wasn't, right? So just monitor your blood pressure as well, guys out there, because that's a silent killer. It'll sneak up to you because people with high blood pressure don't really know it until they go to a doctor. And sometimes you'll go to the doctor and it'll be high and they'll just say, oh, it's the white coat syndrome. And it's only because you're kind of anxious that you're there. So everything elevates. So they just kind of brush it off. You're okay. So just monitor your blood pressure as well, guys, because high blood pressure is constriction of the arteries and your heart ends up becoming like a water balloon that gets overinflated. And next thing you know, pop goes the balloon. Same thing can go with your heart with high blood pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. So you definitely got to keep that blood pressure under control without a doubt. And, I always tell people your top 3 nutrition changes for heart disease. Number 1, get rid of the sugars and grains, right? Things that turn into sugars, the starches, and you definitely got to reduce those. And that will help bring the triglycerides down. That will help balance out, certainly help lower insulin and lower LDL. And you were talking about, getting CRP done. I'm also a huge fan of getting fasting insulin levels done. What do you think of that, Marty?
Yeah, I think that's another great
Yeah.
source. All the tools that are available, use them, right? So everything has a price to it. So depending on economic value, CRP is a really relatively inexpensive test. The plaque 2 test is another test. It may be a tad more expensive, but it's the PLA2, right? So I would say, and your fasting one, I mean, between those 3 and at least 2 of those 3 will be good markers to let you know what's going on inside your arteries. Because if you're off the charts, then there's something going on and you need to get a hold of it now before it turns into hopefully never one and done, right? Because I don't want anyone to experience it. I want you to know that the other side is beautiful and warm and all that, but you don't want to go before your time, and there's no need to go before your time, right?
Yeah, I think that's really what it's all about is, heart attacks oftentimes will hit us unexpected, and it's those unexpected deaths that, just become so hard for families. And so, yeah, absolutely. Saving lives and just, taking so much pain and suffering away from families because, again, those sudden deaths, those sudden heart attacks, boom, that's what breaks all of our hearts, when we're the ones that have to see that with family members.
If I could share one more thing for you guys out there as well, is when I was doing my marketing, my research, do you know today's generation of children are walking around up age 10, 8 to 10, have 20% plaque buildup in them already. Yeah. And that's because of all the processed foods and the sugars and all that, right? So our children are getting a death sentence early on. They may not live to see 40 if they keep doing those things, right?
Totally.
So just be aware of, what you're feeding the children. There's McDonald's and those prepackaged foods, and they're high in sodium, and all those things will pay a toll. And that astounded me when I heard 20% already at 10 years old. Oh my goodness, right? Because this thing gradually starts over the years. It's not like, you're 60 and go, wow, it's my lifestyle I did throughout my life that got me where I am today. But I'm here to hopefully share. You can reverse all that kind of stuff with heart disease by proper diet, nutrition, and
it's so key. It's so key. And what they do is they do autopsies on kids that die in like tragic accidents, car accidents, things like that. And you're right. I mean, it's significantly more plaquing in the arteries now than it was 20, 30 years ago when they were looking at kids. And yeah, it has to do with these high carbohydrate diets. See, when we eat sugar or things that turn into sugar, have a high glycemic index or glycemic load, what happens is, though, that sugar, number one, if it's not cleared from the bloodstream fairly quickly, it will bind to proteins and create something called an advanced glycolytic enzyme, an AGE. And those advanced glycolytic enzymes, just like the acronym AGE, they're going to advance or accelerate the aging process. And one of the things they do is they damage the endothelial lining, so the internal lining of the blood vessels. They just literally attack it and destroy it. And that ends up causing the scar tissue formation, which is what we know as plaque. And so this is really, really big. And so I'm such a huge fan of going on a lower carbohydrate diet. And then, like I was saying, number one step, reduce sugars and grains. Number two, get rid of the bad fats. And Marty, you really hit that. Hey, get rid of the processed fats, the trans fats. These things are horrible for the body, cause massive inflammation in the system. You got to add in the good fats, okay? You talked about olive oil, which is a fantastic fat, avocados, another really, really good one. And so you mentioned 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil that you were doing. And you mentioned a polyphenol count there. And so what brand of olive oil do you use that has that polyphenol count that you've researched?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're not going to be able to find this olive oil at your local grocery store, at your Trader Joe's or your Vons or your Kroger's or anything, because olive oil in grocery stores are made for taste, and you put it on salad or maybe cooking. So that's not really going to get you where you want to go. You're going to have to go to a specialty store that actually sells olive oil and vinaigrettes type thing, a specialty store. And as soon as you walk in that specialty shop, and they're all over, you just want to say but the higher the polyphenol count, the better. I just say it's and maybe I should share that study. So let me share that study with you real quick. Why did I do this?
Yeah, go ahead and pull that up. Polyphenols are basically antioxidants. And so, you want something that has these antioxidants because fats can be, basically they can be damaged by oxidative stress. And so when it has more of these antioxidants, it helps protect the fat, and those antioxidants offer a protection against overall oxidative stress. And that's key because oxidative stress is, again, what accelerates the aging process if it's not kept in balance with these antioxidants. Go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, absolutely. So what brought me to take the olive oil 3 tablespoons a day and the pomegranate juice? So I read this study in Spain. It was a 10 to 15 year study with cardiac patients of all various things, right? So group A took a placebo and did diet. Group B did their diet and meds. And then group C did everything but added the 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil and the pomegranate juice, right? So now those 3, group C, over 89% of them removed all their plaque. The other 2 groups either stayed the same or got worse. So as soon as I did that, I said, let me be a living example. And it truly works, guys. So every morning, the first thing I do when I wake up, I do my 3 tablespoons extra virgin olive oil. I do my 2 ounces of pomegranate juice every day religiously. And I'm here to tell you there's some other things I do as well. But I believe those 2, if you do anything, do those 2, and you'll help start reversing your plaque in your arteries. And if you don't, we're going to lube those arteries up so you don't build it up to begin with. And that's a step in the right direction. So watch your sodium. No more. I say no more than 1,500 milligrams. I live off of 500 milligrams a day because we need a little bit of electrolytes in us and sodium, but a lot of us will get over 2,000 milligrams in one meal. So watch your sodium intake and definitely those trans fats and saturated fats.
Yeah. So basically, big thing there, polyphenols are going to be, typically they're compounds from plants, and they've allowed the plants to adapt to the different environmental stressors. And so these plants adapt over, many years to be able to face different predators, radiation from the sun, different things like that. And so they develop these compounds. When we eat those compounds, they confer and give us better benefit against all of those types of things. So you have things like green tea, for example. That's
Mhm.
rich in epigalactic catechins, ECGC, right? So that's real rich. Dark chocolate, actually rich in epigalactic catechins as well. Anything, you know, any sort of plant compound that has a lot of color to it. So you have things like red cabbage, for example, red onions, blueberries, very rich in anthocyanins, okay, pomegranate, so raspberries, so kind of these reds and purples, very, very rich in those things. Now, if you're out there and you're doing a ketogenic diet, you don't want to do the pomegranate juice, I would recommend, you know, really trying to focus on making sure you're getting the low carb varieties of these types of foods. So that would be like red cabbage, right? So very low carb, rich in polyphenols. Olive oil, obviously amazing for a ketogenic diet. You should be doing lots of olive oil and olives and things like that. Fantastic for that. You also have things like red onions, which are great. You can actually get purple cauliflower that's rich in anthocyanins as well. So a lot of really good things there. Green tea can be something you're using, dark chocolate. So all kinds of good stuff there as far as that goes. So we talked about that. You know, the third big thing is we talked about obviously the fats, getting rid of bad fats, consuming good fats. We also talked, or we haven't touched yet, but I need to make sure I mention, change the meat they eat. Get rid of any sort of grain-fed, processed, commercialized animal products, and make sure you're doing grass-fed, right? Grass-fed is going to have the right types of fatty acids that you want, wild-caught if you're doing seafood. You want to make sure, again, you're getting grass-fed, wild-caught types of stuff because that's going to have the most nutrient density and the best omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. And what I find is that, you know, when you're eating these conventionally raised animal products, very high in omega-6 fats. And when we have a disproportionate ratio of omega-6 to omega-3, causes more inflammation in our body. And again, that's what we're trying to keep under control. So getting the omega-3 rich animal products is going to be much better for the body. And so always going grass-fed, obviously organic, making sure we're avoiding all kinds of environmental toxins that could be in the meat products. It only takes 1 pound of chemically sprayed grain. Or, I'm sorry, it takes 5 to 8 pounds of chemically sprayed grain to produce 1 pound of beef, for example, right? So if they're giving them a bunch of chemically sprayed corn, it's just bioaccumulating into the cells and the fat cells of the animal. And also your grass-fed animal products are going to be leaner as opposed to your conventionally raised animal products. So these are big changes that we definitely want to make sure we're making. Any comments on that, Marty?
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. So if you are going to have the red meat, like Dr. Doctors was saying, definitely grass-fed, and the leaner, the better. You know, I always try to get the leanness. And your salmon is very good for your omega-3s. So there's some other things omega-3s are good for you. CoQ10, Hawthorne. There's some stuff that hopefully you'll be sharing the website, I hope, with today, and they'll talk about some other things you guys can do. You don't have to do everything on the list that's on there, but if you do some of them, you're going definitely in the right direction. And,
absolutely. Let's jump in and grab some of these questions. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's see. We've got Heidi. Heidi says, I love fasting. Thank you, Dr. Joggers, so I could research and apply to my life. You're welcome, Heidi. And actually, Heidi is going to be my guest next week, next Monday. Heidi has lost 125 pounds through the ketogenic diet and fasting. Isn't that amazing? So we're going to be talking to her next week. Let's see. Randy says, any thoughts on EDTA, which is a chelating agent, particularly good for things like lead, with garlic and carditone? Okay, so I'm very familiar with EDTA and garlic. I'm not exactly familiar with carditone. Are you familiar with that, Marty?
A little bit. I'm familiar with. Yeah, I'm familiar with the ETA.
EDTA.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a good supplement. The toxins on the metals and so forth, and so it's not a bad thing to do. I would say, I mean, the more the better, right? So keep doing what you're doing if you're doing that, and
and natural blood, like garlic is a natural blood thinning agent. Garlic has a lot of different benefits. It's a sulfur compound, so sulfur helps with phase 2 liver detoxification, which is really important, and we need that good phase 2 in order to keep inflammation under control. So that's important. Also, it's natural antimicrobial, and there's a lot more research coming out about leaky gut and leaky heart, believe it or not, and how gut problems correlate to heart problems. And so garlic is natural, helps to regulate the gut microbiome. and it has natural blood thinning agents. So if you're somebody out there that possibly has like high LP-PLA2, things like that, high, platelet factors, and is getting a lot more clotting, doing something like garlic can be really helpful. Now, if you're on like a really strong blood thinner, you definitely want to talk to your doctor about that. You don't want to just jump out and start taking garlic, but start talking to your doctor about that. But in general, garlic can be helpful for many people. So I think that's real beneficial. All right, Steve has a good question. He goes, any thoughts on using serrapeptidase in supplemental form for helping to dissolve plaque and scar tissue? So serrapeptidase, I'll just kind of give my thoughts real quick. Serrapeptidase is a proteolytic enzyme. It's actually from the silkworm, proteolytic enzyme. And basically, proteolytic enzymes help to break down circulating proteins. Like, for example, if you do have high CRP, C-reactive protein, then taking something like serrapeptidase or other proteolytic enzymes can have a positive effect at lowering that. Meanwhile, you're obviously trying to change your lifestyle and everything to get that back in order. And I think it can be a helpful thing. Now, I haven't actually looked at detailed research on its ability to dissolve plaque and scar tissue. Marty, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, boy, there's so many herbs, we'll say, right, or supplements that have beneficial benefits in blood, these type issues. I would say try it and get your blood work done.
Yeah.
Right? So how do I know if something's working or not? I'll know when I get my blood work done. So if I take all these
N equals 1, right? Experiment on yourself. Yeah.
Right. So if it isn't working, next I'm going to go to something that works for me. All of us are different, right? So what works for you may not work for me. So you just got to find that happy medium. I would like to share this. I wouldn't want to say go out and buy every herb out there in the world and take 100 herbs a day, because some of the herbs you're taking may not even be good herbs to begin with, or how they're processed or who you're buying them from. That's a whole different story.
Yeah, for sure.
But the tried and true, the garlics and the other things we've talked about, they're tried and true and proven through research to have great benefits for you.
Yeah, so absolutely.
Right. So again, I'll just say, take it, get your baseline with your blood work to know where you're at, what your starting point is, and see if you're getting worse or more. I will share something with you guys real quick, if you like. My wife and I went vegan, right? And anything you would ever read about vegan, you would think if you're a vegan, you're going to be the healthiest person in the world, right? My wife went vegan and her numbers skyrocketed. Her HDL plummeted. Her LDL went off the chart. And her numbers were worse than my numbers were the day I had my heart attack. So what happened? Vegan didn't work for her. So now she's back to eating the good fats, right? Yeah. And doing the things we were talking about today. And now her numbers are all back. So that was about a 90-day process. So we took, got her back to normal. 90 days, got blood work. Now her numbers are back up, got 90 HDL. All the numbers are looking good. So I would just say, get the baseline with your blood work and try it and see if it's definitely helping.
Yeah, exactly. I see that so commonly. Oftentimes when people are on a vegan diet, you certainly could do a vegan ketogenic style diet, but animal foods done properly, grass-fed organic animal products really offer a lot of benefits if done appropriately. Fat-soluble nutrients, different things like that. Plus, when you're going vegan, oftentimes you're consuming a lot more carbs. Right? So oftentimes doing a lower fat, higher carb diet, you're causing high insulin, which obviously causes a tremendous amount of problems in the body, really promotes the inflammation. Let's see what other questions we have. Okay. Laureen says, wonder if you could buy a good olive oil on Amazon as well. Probably could. You probably just have to do some research to get the right kinds. A lot of manufacturers are now selling stuff up on Amazon. So you probably could. Just got to do the right research. I know whenever I'm telling people about buying oils, always make sure for sure that it's in a glass. You don't want it really in a plastic bottle, because the plastic can leach into the oil. Phthalates will leach into the oil, and it should be a dark container or like completely closed container, so like a dark glass, because the light content, actually light getting in there, it needs to be shielded from the light or it'll reduce its polyphenol count and can cause rancidity of the oil as well. So I think that's huge. Let's see. Randy says, isn't it true that if one controls insulin spikes, that plaque will not build up in your arteries because cholesterol doesn't get sticky? Yeah, this plays a huge role with it, is that basically when you are having high levels of insulin, that insulin is going to promote more oxidative stress and inflammation. And cholesterol is kind of like an innocent bystander. It's just, if it's around and there's high levels of inflammation, oxidative stress, then it's going to oxidize. So yeah, I mean, the main player here is definitely insulin, keeping that under control. That's why I'm such a big fan of getting things like fasting insulin looked at, because if you have high fasting insulin, it's a sign again that your body's overproducing insulin. You've got blood sugar issues, and that needs to be under control. So, going even further upstream, we got to look at insulin. And one way to know if you're just getting a lipid panel, meaning just looking at LDL, HDL, and triglycerides, you will know, like, this is kind of a sign that you've got issues with insulin and insulin resistance. If your triglyceride to HDL ratio is over 2, okay, so like that should be as close to 1-to-1 as possible. So, in a sense, if your HDL is 60 and your triglyceride is 60, that's a really healthy ratio there. But I see a lot of people where triglycerides are 150 and their HDL is 40, right? That's a terrible ratio. It's a sign of insulin resistance there. And then your LDL to HDL typically is 3-to-1 or less, okay? Oftentimes closer to 2-to-1. And so if you're getting those in normal proportions, you're probably okay, but certainly getting your fasting insulin looked at as well is key. So that's my thoughts on that. Marty, you have any additional thoughts there?
No, absolutely. I mean, especially when the insulin spikes, that's really, the carbs, the sugars, that is the real kicker here, guys. If you're in the carbs, I mean, that's what happened with the wife, I think, right? I believe even though she was vegan, there's a hidden carbs you don't know when you're a vegan, the rice noodles and the things you think you're doing right, but that's all hidden carbs, which turns into sugar, which turns into high, then you get yourself into these vicious cycles. And it really, you can actually really within 90 days turn your whole lifestyle around and get your numbers in check, I believe, and maybe even sooner. But I would think 90 days on a minimum, 6 months for sure. But 90 days, I believe you could turn your whole eating habits and nutrition around, and your numbers would come into play. Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And so, 90 days, a lot can happen in your body. Let's see. Laureen says, what about buffalo burgers? Good question. Buffalo is more or less like a wild animal, going to be very lean, going to be higher ratios. Typically, it's not corn-fed. You want to stay away from corn-fed or grain-finished animal products. Typically, they're doing that with beef. So if you're getting more of the wild game eating grass is rich in omega-3 fats and lower in omega-6. Got more like a 1-to-1 ratio there. And so when the animals are eating grass, they're going to naturally have that right fatty acid ratio, and it's got a lot of clean protein in there. It's got coenzyme Q10 in there in the muscle meat. It's got things like carnosine and carnitine, which are really, really good for fat metabolism. Conjugated linoleic acid, which is another CLA, another really, really good fatty acid that really helps your metabolism, thyroid, and helps your immune system as well. Research out on CLA helping as an anti-carcinogen, helping reduce cancer cell formation in the body. So I think buffalo burgers are great. Again, with meat, it always comes back to good sourcing. Really making sure you're getting the right sourcing with your meat. And then Rebecca says, why lean grass-fed beef? Good question. I would say the biggest thing is grass-fed beef is naturally going to be leaner than your traditional, conventionally raised beef, because grass-fed cows have lower circulating insulin levels. So because of that, they're going to be lean. It's kind of like, if we were to eat grass, obviously we can't digest it, but if we were to eat, really, really healthy diet, we're naturally going to be leaner as well. And so that's the same thing here with cows. So it's naturally going to be leaner. And then I don't concern myself with the fats that are in your grass-fed, your lean sorts of animal products, because we do need healthy fats, and there's a lot of benefits to the right form of animal fats. You just want to stay away from your conventionally raised animal products because, again, they are loaded with the high omega-6 fats, oftentimes a lot of environmental toxins, things like that. So that's key. Sue has a question. She says, I have mild leaky heart valves. I'm not going to take blood thinners unless it's my last resort.
So she's got the leaky heart valves, a mitral valve, and the tricuspid valve and whatnot. I'm trying to remember my anatomy there. And so what kinds of things, Marty, do you have you worked with anybody with leaky heart valves?
No, I did research a little bit about that. I would say hopefully she's exercising
Yeah.
at least 30 minutes a day. Will help everything out. Will get those valves stronger and functioning properly because those valves aren't closing all the way. So they're kind of like,
Yep.
it's like your carburetor. It's like, that valve just isn't closing and shut and closing, right? So I would say probably one of the best things you could do is do some things we were talking about today with the olive oil and the pomegranate juice and so forth. But make sure you're getting that 30 minutes a day of walking in.
Yeah.
And that's going to start building that valve up and get it stronger for you.
Yeah, I think that's huge. Also, on top of that, too, I'm a big fan of vitamin C whenever there's kind of connective tissue issues, right? And that's basically a mitral valve is a connective tissue. And so we need better collagen, stronger collagen formation. So you could do collagen protein is helpful, but you need vitamin C not only to reduce the oxidative stress, but also to convert amino acids into healthy collagen. So vitamin C can be really, really important. And I'm a fan of doing a vitamin C that's a 1-to-1 ratio with bioflavonoids. It's kind of more so how you would get it in nature. And typically with people with that sort of issue, I'll usually do higher dose vitamin C, like doing something like 2 to 3 grams in the morning when you wake up, 2 to 3 grams at night before you go to bed, getting around that 5 to 6 gram level. If you have diarrhea, if you're taking vitamin C and you have diarrhea, it's a sign you kind of hit your vitamin C threshold. Okay, so then you would cut back a little bit. But for most people, in fact, I take roughly 3 to 4 grams every day myself, and I just feel like I have better energy, better stamina, better endurance with it, and I never get diarrhea with that amount. And just when we're under stress, when we are just living, the American life or life in in today's world, we're going to be under more oxidative stress. We've got electromagnetic frequencies all around us. We've got a lot of pressure on us in different areas of our life. So we've got all these different things. And so taking some extra vitamin C can be really, really helpful for those types of connective tissue issues. So let's see. Jana says, my husband was prescribed statins, but he did some research on Brazil nuts as a replacement for the statins. What are your thoughts on this? Personally, glad he's not taking the statins. What are your thoughts on statins, Marty?
Okay, well, so let's talk a couple. I'm familiar with Brazilian nuts. I take 3 myself every week. So that's a good thing. Have them keep doing that. Here's the thing, okay? Until you know his numbers, I would say take a statin because the statin will save his life. Let's say, okay? I wouldn't want to play around with, I'm taking a Brazil nut, so I'm okay. Because I don't know if you're okay without knowing your numbers. Numbers don't lie. So if you have your blood work and those numbers are going up, well, guess what? Right? So that statin is going to help that liver from not presenting that enzyme to create that cholesterol that's going to do it. So I would say be better safe than sorry. We can talk about, I don't know what dosage is taken, but I would say initially, as I said before, I think meds have a purpose, right? And until we know numbers, take it. Don't be foolish and not. And also, if you're taking a statin, please take CoQ10 because statins, you may even be low on CoQ10 to begin with. You take a statin, it's just going to remove all the CoQ10. And CoQ10, you need that for heart function, okay?
So yeah, CoQ10 is so important. Exactly. Yep. So super, super important there. Now, Jana, what I will say, from a doctor's perspective is, definitely take a look at those numbers. And a lot of times physicians are prescribing statins really for what I think is like absolutely no reason. And they're doing it because they think that total cholesterol over 200 means you need a statin, you have a statin deficiency. It's definitely not the case at all, okay? Possibly, if his cholesterol levels are like 600 or something, there's some really, really high level. But in general, I would recommend working with a functional health practitioner that's trained in metabolic disorders and different things like that, and certainly asking them. And obviously, if you posted the numbers, I'd be able to take a look at that. But in general, and Jen, I know you're local, so you can bring those in to Exodus Health Center. I can take a look at that. But he's absolutely right. If you are going to take a statin, you definitely want to make sure you're taking CoQ10 with it, or you're going to cause actually worse heart problems, because CoQ10 is basically a cofactor that helps produce energy within every cell of the body, within the mitochondria. And unfortunately, the action of a statin will actually deplete CoQ10 and cause a lot more problems. So definitely got to make sure that that you're doing the CoQ10. Okay. So like Sue was asking, okay, I think we addressed that, Sue.
Can I add something real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so let me add something real quick so you guys know. If you take the 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil cold press with that polyphenol count, that's been known to lower your cholesterol by 40 to 60 points. That's huge. That is absolutely huge. It's a natural remedy, and you could change your numbers. So like that last question, great question. Again, without knowing your numbers, and I'm just going to go, meds have a place until I don't know what I don't know at the moment, right?
Yeah.
So if the cholesterol is high and your LDL's in the 2s, I don't know, or 3, I don't know, you got high LDL and horrible HDL for a guy. For you guys out there, your HDL better be at over 40. And if you're a female, that HDL better be over a 50. And those LDLs, everybody should be under 100, right?
Well,
so
yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm just giving a general senses real quick when reading numbers. If you get numbers and you see all these outrageous LDL, if I could see a real horrific LDL and a very low LDL, and the ratios are 8-to-1 or something, I know it. You know what I mean? I don't know. You don't know until you know the numbers, but.
Yeah, you gotta look at those. Gotta look at those ratios for sure.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, you definitely got to know the numbers.
Marty, when you were doing the olive oil, were you putting it on food, or were you just taking tablespoons straight up?
I do it straight up. So what I do is I usually mix 3 tablespoons with 4 ounces of low sodium V8 juice every day, and I just drink it down, right? Yeah. And that way I get a little bit of veggies in from the V8. It's low sodium, and now the higher the polyphenol count, it'll burn. You get into 700s and 1,000 polyphenols, it goes down rough, but it's only for a second. But you'll find 500 and 700 polyphenol counts all day long at these places, right?
So, yeah, and I would imagine also that's also causing a big release of bile there too, which, bile is made up of cholesterol. And so a lot of times people's cholesterol levels will look high on blood work, okay? But actually it's because their body is not moving bile very effectively. And so doing something like that too helps clear out that gallbladder and helps clear out, in a sense, any sort of what we call biliary stasis, or just really sluggish sluggish toxic bile. And that's a huge component too, is you gotta be moving that bile through, and that's critical. So I can definitely see where that would help with that too. So that's big. Okay, Joanne says, what are the best ways to lower high blood pressure? And this is going to be our last question because it is now 1:00. Marty, you've been awesome, though, and what an amazing story. So best ways to lower high blood pressure, I go right back to the things we talked about, right? Good nutrition, getting that blood sugar stable, really good diet, exercise regularly, really focusing on deep breathing, stress management, keeping that under control, really focusing on good sleep. And Marty and I, we talked a little bit about this. We did an advanced form of chiropractic care on him as well, which I found to be very, very effective for people with high blood pressure. And one test that we did on Marty was called a heart rate variability test, which is actually looking at the difference between beats, what's happening between heartbeats. And Marty was off the charts in a fight or flight place, meaning he was sympathetic dominant. His body was in fight or flight, ready for stress, ready to either fight or flee, even though he was just sitting there with his finger in a machine, right? And so through the course of care, as well as the lifestyle changes that he was making, we were able to get that back exactly where it was supposed to be at the ideal level. And so that has a lot to do with making sure your spine is in alignment, that your nervous system is flowing effectively, but also on top of that, that you're in a state of gratitude, Okay, you can hear Marty. I mean, he's such a positive person. I love being around this guy because he's so positive and, have a positive attitude, good relationships. These are huge components to getting that blood pressure under control and reducing your risk of heart disease. Would you agree there, Marty?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing, watch your sodium intake, okay? Again, I would say 1,500 milligrams or less a day, no more than 2 for sure. But sodium plays a high factor in high blood pressure. And so that's just everything the doctor says absolutely spot on. And I would just add that little caveat, just watch your sodium intake, okay?
Yeah. Especially if you're on a higher carb diet, that's really important. If you are on a low carb diet, the cool thing that happens here is when your insulin goes real low, like on a ketogenic diet, you actually don't retain sodium. You excrete a lot more of it. So it's counterintuitive. Your whole physiology changes. You actually need more sodium when you're on a low carb diet. It's interesting. Or else you'll end up with the keto flu. You'll end up dizzy with oftentimes low blood pressure. I've seen that with many people when they're on a lower salt consumption plan. So there can be a physiology change depending on what your macronutrients look like and what sort of nutrition plan you're on. Now, another thing for blood pressure, big fan of magnesium. Magnesium supplementation, really good for helping keep good dilation of those blood vessels. That's huge. Omega-3 fatty acids, like a high-quality fish oil, can be really, really helpful for that. We talked about vitamin C. Vitamin C, really important for the elasticity of those blood vessels and keeping that elasticity really good, because if there's damage and we're not replacing those cells well and there's scar tissue developing there, it's not going to be able to expand the way that it should with each heartbeat. So that's really, really important. So I would definitely say those things. CoQ10 also can be very helpful there. Doing some sort of a supplemental CoQ10. Vitamin D, a lot of research out there on very low vitamin D and heart disease and hypertension as well. So I've seen that be a big factor here too. So with that said, it's going to be our last question we do. And Marty, any last words of just inspiration for people? This has been an inspiring interview. Marty has, obviously been through a lot where he's passed over 3 times with this massive heart attack, but he's back here and now he's on a mission to help train people and teach people. He's helped 37 people get their blood work numbers back in order, which obviously is going to make a big impact in reducing the risk of heart disease. And so what do you have to say to all those fathers and men out there, and really everybody, but with Father's Day coming up, that's kind of our theme here. So what do you have to say for final words of inspiration?
Thank you for having me today. It's been a pleasure. I could do this all day, and there's so many things I didn't even touch base on and talk about. But I just want you to know that you are what you eat. If we give a big thing, you are what you eat. Maybe I didn't really get that before all this, but I can guarantee you it is what you eat, right? So just have a healthier diet, better nutrition. The 30 minutes is really important of exercise. There is another side. It's beautiful. Nothing to fear, but let's not go before our time. And don't take the little warning signs for granted, guys. I mean, I was one of them too, and my body was telling me over the years, and I just didn't pay attention. And I don't want anyone to have a massive heart attack, because usually it's one and done. And it's reversible. Heart disease is reversible through proper diet, nutrition, and really paying attention to your signs. And for the ladies out there, you too. I mean, this all relates to you as well. You may get a sign that usually for heart attacks, most heart attacks, if you didn't know it, happen in the morning. And you would think, wow, geez, I'm all rested. I just woke up. But most heart attacks happen in the morning. And also for ladies, it always happens in the middle of your back. So if you're getting something that's a little in the middle of the back, don't take that for granted, okay? But again, you can reverse it through diet and exercise. Hopefully, Dr. Doctor, you're going to share the website today. That's got a lot more information.
Absolutely. So I put a link to Marty's website. So definitely check that out. And, if you want to work with Marty, he works with people as well. And definitely go to his website. And there's a place that they can reach you too. They can send an email or they can contact you and just let them know how much you enjoyed today's interview. And, of course, be sure to share this information. Sharing is caring. So definitely share this video right here. And I will actually put this up later on my YouTube station. So, if you can't find it here on Facebook, it will be on YouTube as well. And definitely let Marty know how much he appreciated the information, the advice, the wisdom, and just really going through his whole experience. Massive heart attack, okay, almost dies, crosses over 3 times, is brought back to life, thank God, due to some great paramedics. And then, now he's gotten rid of all the plaque, and now he's helping people prevent this from happening. So what a great purpose. And I think that's the final thing I'm going to finish on, is just having a strong purpose for your life, and there's really no, we obviously we don't want to die early. And like you said, hey, you know what, especially if you know the Lord, then crossing over is actually a beautiful thing. But while he has us here, he's got a great purpose for us. There's something in our lives, or some sort of gifting, or some sort of experience that we've had, that's going to help lead us to be able to help other people and to serve humanity at a high level. And that's what Marty's doing. And so I wish and I pray that for all of you guys, that you find that purpose and that you're serving at a high level. And also, one announcement is that on this coming Friday, I'm going to be doing another interview with actually a health expert. So be sure to be on the lookout for that. We'll be covering a lot of different topics. I'm just trying to confirm who I'm going to be interviewing right now, but we'll be back then. And again, be sure to share this video and get this information out to as many people as possible. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.